hello there. Welcome to the Transfer Show. 24 hours on from those explosive developments, everyone has had their say on Eberechi Eze's move to Arsenal.
Spurs might have been used a little bit in this. I think that always feels like that.
The general outlook among the Spurs fan base is that we're all furious.
They tried to sign him, but at the end of the day, the player has set his heart on moving to Arsenal.
We had this deal done, you know, so two things have now happened. We've lost him to Arsenal and we've upset the guy who scored 2 goals on Saturday.
This feels like a real kind of maverick signing. You know, Eze plays with real character.
It strengthens their squad, definitely. He's a fantastic player.
Where they've sat on the sidelines waiting for the terms of a deal to be agreed to then swoop in and get it done.
What will Tottenham Hotspur's response be to that disappointment? And does it mean a move for Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers? Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku have both been left out of Chelsea's squad to play West Ham United. The club want permanent deals for both, but is the market still there? Yeah, plenty to discuss on tonight's Transfer Show, and to discuss it with us, Michael Bridge, Mark McAdam. Good evening.
Good evening, Dharmesh.
Good evening, Dharmesh.
Let's start. There's only one place to start. Eberechi Eze. Mark, no Eberechi Eze in the squad at all. We were expecting him to be in the squad yesterday because Oliver Glasner said he and Mark Gay he would be. Eze isn't. Where are we right now with this deal?
Well, clearly there's been a lot that's happened since Oliver Glasner gave that news conference where he said that they'd both be in the squad. It all kicked off late last night, really. I think we were all on our phones at various points during the Transfer Show into the evening, late into the night, probably past midnight, past your bedtime. You were doing calls on Eberechi Eze.
I was giving my son a bath.
Oh, there you go. Too much information. But we leave every detail on the table here at Sky Sports News because that's what people expect. The deal, it's worth a total of £67.5 million, which is 60 million with 7.5 in add-ons, which ironically is less than the release clause that existed and expired on the Friday before Crystal Palace's first Premier League game of the season. We're expecting him to have his medical tomorrow. Of course, there were suggestions he'd be involved with Crystal Palace tonight in that crucial Europa Conference League qualifying match. And it intrigues me, this situation, because the agreement that was in place with Tottenham Hotspur certainly had an option where Eberechi Eze would be involved for Crystal Palace, and they were comfortable with that, and Crystal Palace wanted him to be a part of their showpiece European match in South East London. The fact that he's now joining Arsenal and he's not involved in the squad would suggest that Arsenal didn't have the same arrangement that perhaps Tottenham Hotspur had before they agreed this deal. Personal terms, all accepted, sorted, not a problem. We've been saying throughout the course of this summer that Eberechi Eze was a target for Arsenal, and you'd imagine that a lot of the groundwork on any potential deal would have been done in June. So really, over the course of the last 24 hours, it was a case of picking up the phone saying, yeah, we'll match the deal, we'll do the same deal. We know what the personal terms are. We want to make this happen, and we want him as an Arsenal player now.
Michael, it is an extraordinary deal, isn't it? It was an extraordinary night as well. Just picking up on what Mark had said there, talking about Arsenal's interest, people think, well, it just came around on Wednesday. It clearly didn't. They were looking at Eberechi Eze since June. They've got a long-standing admiration for the player. A lot of the groundwork, as Mark said there, was done in June as well. It was only because Kai Havertz, that was a big contributory factor in this. We're still waiting for the exact time that Kai Havertz will be out, but it's clearly something that has worried Arsenal and got them back in to the market for Eberechi Eze. And I think they wanted assurances that there's going to be sales at Arsenal. I'm sure in the background they are working on a number of sales to make sure that everything will be all right financially with regard to this deal. Michael, you were heavily involved with phone calls with myself, with Tottenham Hotspur around this deal. Just explain exactly what happened last night with regard to Arsenal, but in particular with Tottenham Hotspur as well.
Well, Tuesday we got there was information online that Spurs had agreed everything with Crystal Palace. We understand that wasn't completely true, and that there was minute details to finish But then yesterday, those details seemed to be completed and terms were agreed with the player and the club. What we understood was that Spurs were happy for Eze to play in the UEFA Conference League game tonight. Maybe there was just one or two more things that needed to be completely finalised. But look, all Arsenal really needed to do was phone Crystal Palace and say, what have Tottenham given you here? Fine. This is what we'll do, and we'll probably match it. And for me, this is what's happened. But of course, it's so frustrating for Spurs supporters because you talk about Kai Havertz getting injured. James Maddison got injured around 3 weeks ago. So the frustration, I think, for Spurs fans is they wish it could have got done a lot sooner.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, and I think a lot of Spurs fans are saying, why did it take Tottenham Hotspur that long to do the deal and Arsenal have done it within a day? That's what it looks like. We were talking about a lot of the background work had been done in June, Mark, but also when you are trying to match a deal, it doesn't take any time, does it?
No.
Because you know what they've agreed with Crystal Palace. So you go over there and say, right, this is what we'll do as well. And then it's up to the player to decide where he wants to go.
And Arsenal are playing a blinder in this respect because they've sat there, they've not wasted time at the negotiation table. They've just allowed Spurs to do all the legwork, knowing that this is a lad that's an Arsenal fan. He wants to play for Arsenal, and they probably would have been given some assurances from his representatives in those conversations in June and July that, like, you know, if he had the choice of where he could go, where would he want to go? Well, he's an Arsenal fan, so actually Arsenal is his destination of choice. And therefore, they would have been so relaxed in this situation. And they've acted like a big club. I said on the show at 4 o'clock that it's almost like this is chapter one from the Real Madrid school of signing players. We'll just wait because we're a huge club. We know the player wants to come to us. We're that big a draw, so therefore we can be so relaxed in this situation. We know we can match what Spurs are willing to pay, and all we have to do is pick up the phone and action the deal. And it's as simple as that, and it feels like it is like that simple. So many of these deals, whilst we report on every cough and splutter on Sky Sports News and we try and keep fans abreast of every development as it happens, ultimately, the conversations are quite short between clubs. You know, this is what we're willing to pay, yes or no. OK, let me speak to my board. The answer's no. You know, you can often put an offer in and get it rejected within 20 minutes. There isn't a long conversation to be had, and it feels like this is a prime example of a club being effective, Eze knowing exactly where he wants to go, Palace happy with the selling price for a player that has 2 years left on his contract, and therefore the deal happens so quickly.
Do you think, when Mikel Arteta gets asked tomorrow in the press conference, did you only go in for Eberechi Eze when Kai Havertz got injured? He's not going to say yes, is he?
And I don't think he did.
No.
I remember being on the show with Dharmesh in June and July, and I remember saying to Dharmesh, is Noni Madueke and Eberechi Eze a target for Arsenal? Both of them? Yes. You said to me yes.
Oh, thank goodness I said yes.
You did. No, but because I was surprised that they would go into the market for two of those types of players that were going to cost in excess of 100 million, big outlays from two rival Premier League sides. You said yes. And whilst that was the case and turns out to be the case, there was an interest in getting Nwaneri's contract sorted. And, of course, the injury to Kai Havertz has affected things as well.
Exactly.
But there clearly was a plan that he was a target this summer.
Yeah, so I was told throughout this window that Arsenal were definitely interested in the player. He was one of their top targets at the start of the window. But it was going to be a case of it was going to go quiet. I was actually told it was going to go quiet for a little while because of two reasons. Arsenal had other areas of the pitch that they wanted to focus on because the timing of certain deals had to happen then. For example, Zubimendi, and they were chasing Gyökeres for many, many weeks of this transfer window. And the second one is what you've mentioned, Ethan Nwaneri and his new contract, because there was a big doubt about whether he was going to stay at Arsenal. He only had a year left of his contract. There was a lot of talk that Borussia Dortmund were interested in trying to take him, but Arsenal managed to get that one over the line. So people then thought, right, focus is now going to be on sales, and have they moved away from Eberechi Eze? But we always maintained that if a market opportunity presented itself to Arsenal, they wanted to be in a position where they could act. And clearly, they have put themselves in a position to act because now he's on the verge of joining Arsenal. Just on the Eze deal and what it could mean for Arsenal and their title chances. A lot of people are describing it as the missing piece in their puzzle to try and win the league. Do you see it as that, Mark?
I certainly see this as a signing. It's a statement signing. It's an England international with a World Cup in less than 12 months' time. He's an outstanding talent. He's the type of player that can make things happen from nothing. He's amongst exceptional players. He will provide another area of attack. And when you start to look at that Arsenal team on paper, Bukayo Saka, Eberechi Eze, the likes of Martin Odegaard as an 8, alongside Declan Rice as an 8, Zubimendi now, that missing piece to shield the back four that allows those other players to get forward and be expressive. Gyökeres I'm a big fan of as well. I know he didn't have the best start to his Premier League season, but I still think he would deliver goals for Arsenal. And then someone like Eze, it feels like this is an Arsenal team that has no excuses to not go on and win the title. They have all of the tools in that squad. Mikel Arteta has once again been backed by the board and supported by Andrea Berta, the sporting director. And now, after years and years of getting so close and being second, surely now, this is Arsenal's time. This is their time to go and win a Premier League title for the first time in over 20 years. And I think, do you know what? I just want to say one thing about Eberechi Eze, and Michael will be able to agree with me, and you're probably the same, Dharmesh. He is an exceptional, talented player. Off the pitch, he's an exceptional human being. And I think that's one of the key things that Arsenal have got here. They've got a real personality, someone with good morals, good values. He's an excellent team player, a very valued member of that dressing room at Crystal Palace. The fans absolutely adore him. And every time I've interviewed him or spent time with him, whether it was at QPR, who, by the way, get 15% of the profit. So QPR fans will be happy today off the back of this deal. A, they get some money in the bank, and B, they see one of their own go on and achieve things with a huge club. I think this just works in so many ways for all parties connected.
Exceptional player, exceptional human beings. Both of you are 1 out of 2 on that as well, so congrats.
I'm a rubbish footballer, so I take that as a compliment.
Michael, Mark was saying they've been so close to winning the title. Let's switch to Tottenham Hotspur because they've been so close in this window to signing Morgan Gibbs-White. They've been so close to signing Eberechi Eze. Where next?
Well, two very public disappointments for Spurs. And it's been really disappointing for the Tottenham Hotspur supporters, especially when it's Arsenal. It reminds me of when Emmanuel Petit, Spurs paid for his taxi to go to Arsenal and signed for them. And he ended up doing all right. But look, they've got to move on now, and I'll tell you why. Because time is ticking. We know on Sky Sports News that they want a 10. That's pretty obvious now, isn't it? But a left winger to replace Heung-min Son, and ideally a centre-half to cover Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero. Maybe ideally a left-footed centre-half, but the 10 is absolutely key. We know James Maddison's going to be out for the majority of the season. Keep reading that Dejan Kulusevski's back in a couple of weeks. He's not back for months, so let's stop all that. So Spurs need not even cover, players in Thomas Frank's 11. Mo Kudus is a brilliant signing. João Paulinho is a brilliant signing. They both start for Spurs. They were great against PSG. Kudus was great against Burnley as well. One player I know they're looking at again is Monaco's Magnus Akliuch. He's got a great left foot. He's a number 10. My theory on this as well, I think Thomas Frank is looking not specifically for a creative midfielder like an Eze. He wants a bit of an engine in this number 10, a 10 who can drop deep, which Morgan Gibbs-White can do. But I'll go back to it. Spurs need to get someone in of a similar level to Eze, even with greater potential. Now, I know that's going to be extremely difficult, but that's the job they'll be doing the minute they conceded Eze going to Arsenal. No 17, 18-year-old prospects, they need players for now. Because
Michael, there's lots of talk online about Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa. Can you throw any light on that?
I think most Premier League clubs, if not all, would like to sign Morgan Rogers. I think there's a difference. Can you sign him or will you sign it? I don't think any club will be able to sign Morgan Rogers at the moment. I think Spurs like him, but my understanding is it's not a player they're looking at to sign at the moment. Of course, he's a player they like. He's a fantastic player. He's just won the PFA Young Player of the Year. But who's won it before? Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Trent Alexander-Arnold. He carries on playing the way he is for Aston Villa, and he's played well for England. He'll be up there. Now, we talk about Aston Villa and PSR. They've just sold Jacob Ramsey, and that broke Aston Villa hearts. I think it would be extremely difficult for a club to do a deal with Morgan Rogers. Spurs like him, other clubs like him, but does that mean they'll sign him? I don't think so.
Well, it looks like that saga is close to being over. One interesting point that we mentioned yesterday about one of Tottenham's proposals was maybe looking into sending Richarlison to Crystal Palace to get Eberechi Eze to free up striker space so that they could maybe rival and hijack Newcastle United's move for Yohan Wissa. Well, we can bring you a development from Brentford who have posted footage of Wissa training with the rest of the first team on Instagram here. The striker has been looking for a move away from Brentford this summer, with Newcastle having a £40 million bid turned down yesterday. He's taken his frustration out on social media, has Wissa, with the 28-year-old deleting all references to Brentford from his own Instagram account. So the Eze saga looks like it's coming to an end. The Wissa one looks like it's continuing. Up next, Arne Slot fields questions on Alexander Isak as Liverpool prepare to face, yes, Newcastle United on the Monday Night Football. Been involved in the other transfer saga of the window, their pursuit of Newcastle United striker Alexander Isak. Now, manager Arne Slot is happy with his squad, but admitted they'd be interested in bringing in a player who would improve them and wanted to join them. I wonder who that could be.
What I can tell you is not a lot. And if someone else is going to ask that question, it's going to be the same answer. Very, very happy about the squad we are having. So I've always said maybe having two per position is ideal, but I prefer less than more. But as always, if we think we can improve in a certain position and there's a player available that can really make us better, which you could see with Giovanni Leoni, it's then this club has always shown that they bring these players in, but only if everything is what we want. So the right transfer fee, the right player, the right position, and a player that wants to come to us.
A player that wants to come to us. Interesting, Mark. He's clearly not going to give too much away publicly. What's your reaction to what you heard from Arne Slot there?
No, I think I really like Arne Slot. I think the way he comes across in the media, the way he speaks, the way he fronts up and answers questions as well, respectfully. And he's prepared to have a little bit of a back and forth and a joke with our reporter Vinny O'Connor and those in the press room. I think shows the mark of the man and the type of person he is. He gets it, he understands what our job is about, and he understands that there are millions of Liverpool fans around the world that are desperate to know what's happening with Alexander Isak and whether or not there'll be a second bid. The first bid, 110 million plus add-ons, rejected by Newcastle. And their stance is quite clear on Alexander Isak. They don't want to sell a player who is crucial to their Premier League campaign and their Champions League season for less than what they feel is the value, and also without having a replacement in the building, signed up and ready to go. I think that the key thing that I take from Arne Slot's press conference there when he's asked about signing Alexander Isak is, another attacker. He doesn't say another striker, another attacker. And my understanding is that's where Liverpool are at. Are they comfortable with the squad they have? Yes. Would they like to add another attacker? If the right opportunity presents itself, then yes. But an attacker like Hugo Ekitike, who can play as inside forward, play as a 10, play as a 9, play on the right-hand side, someone that brings versatility, that is the type of player that Liverpool would be in the market for as much as they would be interested in taking Alexander Isak. But Liverpool aren't stupid. They know that Newcastle are not going to sell the player unless they have a replacement. And the problem is, there are very few replacements out there available at the right price that Eddie Howe would be comfortable with signing.
You mentioned Eddie Howe there. Another tumultuous week for Newcastle United, although some could say, Jacob Ramsey has arrived, so really good signing. And the signings that they have made, they are actually, if you take them in isolation, it's been quite a good window when you look at it like that, but it has been dominated, of course, by this Alexander Isak saga. We're going to be hearing from Eddie Howe tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, we've actually got two bites at the cherry with Eddie. He's doing his press conference at 9 a.m. in the morning. And, of course, we have got a host broadcast interview, which is the interview we get exclusively one-on-one with the manager before a live Sky Sports game. They're live on the Monday Night Football, which I cannot wait for. So we've got two opportunities to speak to Eddie Howe. Now, ultimately, he's going to be asked the same questions that we've been asking for a number of weeks now. What's the latest with Alexander Isak? Have you had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him? Is there any movement with his position? Does he want to be included in the squad? Does he want to return to the fold for training? Is there any chance he may be on the bench on Monday night? Of course, Alexander Isak's position has been made quite clear through his representatives via the media that he doesn't want to play for Newcastle anymore. He wants to explore his options. He wants to potentially join Liverpool, and he has no desire to play for Newcastle United again. However, there is a 3-year contract remaining on his current deal, and the choice isn't really his, it's Newcastle United's, and they'll decide where he goes moving forward. And if you want to ask me the question, which I've been asked this week, last week, the week before, I still think he remains a Newcastle United player.
But also, hypothetically, if Newcastle did sign Johan Visser, that's not enough if they sold Alexander Isak. They've got the Champions League.
Johan Visser is the replacement for Callum Wilson. He is a striker, someone that would probably play a huge number of games. There is that interest in the player. Obviously, when you've got Alexander Isak, the chances of Johan Wissa starting as a guaranteed starter is not going to be high. However, you look at the partnerships that Wissa formed with Brian Mbeumo and various other players at Brentford. He was an exceptionally important player to a front three. And Wissa's quality is he can play in multiple positions. And he brings so much. And that's why Eddie Howe wants to sign him. This is not just a player that, oh yeah, he'll do. No, he's a player they've liked for some time. They've been tracking for some time. They've obviously had a couple of offers rejected by Brentford over the course of this summer. This is a player they have a desire to sell, but he is not the Alexander Isak replacement. He is someone that could go in and be a part of that strike force for Newcastle.
Let's see how it all unfolds. And I think those operating the fixture computer typed in, let's create mischief. Because it is set to be a blockbuster Monday night football. St James's Park, Newcastle United against Liverpool. It just had to be, didn't it? You can watch it all on Sky Sports Premier League. Coverage gets underway from 6:30. Do not miss it. Right, from the Monday night football, closer to home, the Friday night football, West Ham United against Chelsea. Michael, let's talk about Chelsea because we know they're going to be busy heading into the final week of this window. And sales seem to be uppermost in their thoughts. Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku will be priorities for them to offload. Where are we with both of these?
Well, Enzo Maresca, I always like listening to him at press conferences. He's very, very open. He says what he thinks straight away. And he's basically told the press today that these two players have to find other solutions. But if they don't find other solutions, he'll have to reintegrate them. I mean, he was very thorough last year. He kept saying, you keep telling me I've got 40 players in this squad. I am going to break this down to 23, 24. So I enjoyed listening to him last season. And he's very, very honest. We know Chelsea have had this extra transfer window before the Club World Cup. That went very well indeed, didn't it? Signing João Pedro, Liam Delap. That's probably put Nicholas Jackson down to number 3. But Chelsea do need to sell as well as bring players in. We know they want Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho, but they need to get players out. So this is what the Chelsea head coach said a little earlier on the two players.
He is available, but he is not going to be part of the squad because, as we already said, we have 2 strikers, we have 2 players in that position, and also we know that something can happen before the window transfer close.
And is there anything on the horizon with Nicholas Jackson departing? Does he look close to a move away at the moment?
No idea, to be honest. No idea. You know already from last season that I prefer to be focused on training session, prepare the game. We see if they're going to be here, they're going to be with us. In case they are not here, that means that they found a solution. And at the end, I think it's always better if they can find a solution because I think they're going to be more happy and the club the same.
Managers like Enzo Maresca are great for the media, aren't they? Because you ask them a question and he's basically said, yes, go and find other solutions to Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku. But by making that so public, Mark, does it weaken their bargaining position at all?
I think there's 2 things that weaken Chelsea's position with regards to player sales this summer. A, everyone knows the players that are not in the squad and surplus to requirements. So therefore, straight away they say, well, the manager said very publicly that this particular player is not in the plan, so therefore we know you want rid of him, which strengthens our position as a buying club. The other problem that Chelsea have is that they have this business plan with UEFA where they have to ensure at the end of the transfer window, before they play European football, they have made more money from player sales than they have on player purchases. So therefore, every club that wants one of these Chelsea players knows that they've got 2 positions of strength. One, Chelsea need the money, because if they want to go and buy Garnacho and they want to go and buy Xavi, they have to make sure that they sell enough players to generate the income that allows them the headroom they need because of the rules that UEFA have effectively placed within the football club on them. And that's their current situation. The Christopher Nkunku one is quite interesting because over the course of the weekend, Bayern Munich, huge club, proposed a loan deal for Christopher Nkunku, and Chelsea said, no, we're not interested in a loan deal. We value the player at 50 million euros, around 43 million pounds, so therefore come back to us with a permanent solution and then we'll have a conversation. We also know that RB Leipzig have also been in touch with regards to Christopher Nkunku. And of course, the thing that makes that one interesting is because guess where Xavi Simons is, one of the players that Chelsea want? He's at RB Leipzig. Could there be some sort of a swap deal that involves those two players? But as the window ebbs away, it makes Chelsea's position a little bit weaker. You could say, like Raheem Sterling, for example, that went to Arsenal. That was on really favourable terms for Arsenal because it was done so late in the window.
I think there's going to be plenty of activity both in and out at Stamford Bridge. No doubt we'll be talking about them a whole lot more in the final 10 days of this transfer window. Still to come, another new signing in the door for Leeds United, and Daniel Farke wants more. We'll discuss that and more as the transfer show continues. Stay with us. The Premier League at some point, couldn't he?
Yeah, multi-club model Hashtag. So this is obviously Fabian Hürzeler. He's been speaking to the media today. He was asked about Julio Enciso and what potentially might be happening here. He spoke about him and spoke publicly about him as well, because it looks like his game time at Brighton is going to be limited this season, and it could be a sizable deal as well. Here's what he said to the media earlier on today.
Like you said, there are some rumours, there are some talks, but nothing's done yet, so we can't comment. I think he's still a very young player with big potential. And if big clubs are interested in him, I wouldn't say that he didn't play it well or didn't had a good time here in Brighton. So you can see that there's a big interest in him because he has big potential, because he showed great stuff for us. So overall, there are some things that for sure could be better regarding the environment, regarding the culture things. But I think that it wasn't a bad period so far.
So Fabian Hürzeler there was basically talking about a potential deal. We understand it's worth around £17 million. He'll be going to Blueco, which is a company that owns Chelsea, and Strasbourg, so he'll probably be playing in Ligue 1 next season, but then, like you rightly say, maybe could be a Chelsea player the season after, someone with huge potential. He's only a young player, but yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on.
Right, let's go from Brighton to one of the newly promoted sides in Leeds United, Michael. 9th edition of this transfer window. They've confirmed the signing of who?
Yeah, Noah Okafor from AC Milan. He was on loan at the end of last season at Napoli, so he's got decent pedigree. He plays at the very top level, and of course, Leeds fans are still happy over that good performance, that 1-0 win over Everton. It's around £18 million, including add-ons. He signed a 4-year deal. He can play across the whole front line, so options for Daniel Farke. Why don't we just hear from Daniel Farke now?
We spoke about that we want to bring some quality signings for our offense in, and Noah fits to this, perfect age, has also played for 2 big clubs, obviously in Italy, before in his time for Red Bull Salzburg, already on Champions League level. Player of high potential, he has more or less all the skills anyhow, and yes, we will also provide him with all the backing and also a good stage to find perhaps a bit more consistency in comparison to what he has done in the last couple of years. But if he uses his potential and is really focused and concentrated and with hard work, he has all the skills to make an important impact also on this level. And for that, we are all pretty delighted to have him with us from now on.
OK, from Leeds, let's go to Bournemouth. Another done deal. Mark, who is it?
Yeah, this was confirmed at 9 a.m. this morning by the football club. I'm really excited about this signing, actually. This is a player that's played Champions League football and won silverware with Bayer Leverkusen, and now he's at Bournemouth. Now, he is the replacement for Dango Ouattara, similar profile. He will start games, that's the plan. He's not coming to be a squad player. He is someone that will impact that first 11. Fast, pacey, can play in multiple positions down on the left-hand side, play as a false 9 as well, anywhere across that front line. Likes to attack the space. And also, I think he just has that X factor. He'll get the fans off their seat. He'll be a little bit of an enigma in that front 3. And I think he will complement the style of football that Bournemouth employ, the type of player he is, the energy, the work rate, the front press, all the things that Andoni Iraola likes, he will bring. So I think that could be one of those deals that maybe in a year's time we say, what an exceptional piece of business that is by Bournemouth. And I know a lot of Bournemouth fans getting frustrated saying, we're not signing the right types of players defensively. We know that they are still in the market for a central defender, possibly another addition as a versatile defender, someone that can play at full-back and centre-half. They're also interested in maybe 1 or 2 others, but they're actually really relaxed with the squad that they've got and the work they've done. Krupi also could play as a number 9 as well, behind Ivan Nilsson. So they have options. They've been really effective. They've done some good business this summer, and I think Amin Adli could be one of the signings of this transfer window.
Before we get to you, Michael, and talk about West Ham United, just a bit of news reaching us here at Sky Sports News, and it's to do with Eberechi Eze. Remember, Crystal Palace are in action tonight in the Conference League playoff first leg at Selhurst Park against Fredrikstad. That's at Selhurst Park. And Oliver Glasner has said that Eberechi Eze called him this morning to pull out of tonight's game. Remember, we were reporting yesterday that Oliver Glasner had said, yes, we expect him to play. We thought he was going to be part of that squad. It soon emerged that Eberechi Eze was not going to be part of that squad. We thought it was to do with this deal. But as far, if we take this on face value, of course, Oliver Glasner said it's because he has pulled out because he said he was ill. This is what Glasner said. Honestly, I expected he would start today for us, but he called me this morning and says that he doesn't feel well to play in the evening. I have to accept it. Everything else you have to ask the chairman. I have to accept it. If a player tells me he is not ready to play, remember, that deal between Arsenal and Crystal Palace has been agreed for a total fee worth £67.5 million, £60 million initial payment, £7.5 million in performance-related add-ons. That medical could happen as soon as tomorrow, but Eberechi Eze, we expected him to play yesterday in tonight's game. It soon emerged that he wasn't going to be part of that squad. Oliver Glasner has revealed that Eze called him this morning to say he was not fit enough and he was not well enough to play. I'm sure we'll hear more from Oliver Glasner after that game in his news conference this evening. OK, as promised, Michael, let's go to West Ham United. They want to bring in players, don't they? Can they?
Well, Graham Potter, look, he doesn't say an awful lot when he comes to transfers in press conferences, but he did say that they're looking to bring players in. We know they need more midfielders. They've never really replaced Declan Rice, have they? They've tried to replace Declan Rice, but it's not easy to replace Declan Rice, is it? Edson Alvarez is heading to Fenerbahce on loan. We know Mo Kudus has joined Spurs, which really hurt West Ham supporters. Karen Brady was talking on the radio on Sunday about FFP constraints, but she knows the targets they're looking for. So it could be a busy last few weeks for West Ham. They need a bit of a freshen up, don't they?
I think they just need a bit of luck as well. I think West Ham are one of those sides that are in that middle run of Premier League teams that have found it really challenging to sign players. Teams that have been promoted have been active. Sunderland, Leeds, Burnley spent money, added to the squad. Teams at the top end have all filled out their squad and got the players they want. But that middle run of sides have found it really challenging.
But with West Ham, isn't it in particular to do with the fact that they really backed Julian Lopetegui last summer, and like every other club in the Premier League and in around Europe, they've got to keep an eye on their
PSR. One person said to me at the start of the window, everyone was for sale at West Ham apart from Jarrod Bowen. And it turns out that essentially that they would listen to offers. They're very clever with what they do, but they have to be creative financially and they have to respect the rules. We've seen what's happened to Everton. Multiple points deductions. The same with Forest. And unfortunately, if you're one of those sides in the Premier League that doesn't have a turnover of 300, 400, 500, 700 million in the case of Manchester City, you don't have as much money to play with. And in this particular transfer summer, where the fees are astronomical, an average winger is going for £50 million or a striker's going for £80+ million, that's difficult for a side like West Ham to compete with. So they have to go in at a different angle and try and find younger players that are maybe cheaper, but you have to coach them and develop them. And that's where teams like maybe Brentford or Brighton or Bournemouth have had a little bit more success. But a real challenge. But they work hard at West Ham. There's good people there, good experienced people in David Sullivan and Lady Karen Brady, or Baroness Karen Brady, I should say. They will be doing everything they possibly can to give Graham Potter the tools to ensure this West Ham side can be successful this season.
Yeah. Mark, Michael, don't go anywhere. I'm going to take a short break. Stay with us here on The Transfer Show. Quotes from a new Morgan Rogers interview published this evening and new information from our colleagues at Sky in Italy about Rasmus Højlund. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Bit of developing news reaching us now because Morgan Rogers has given an interview which has been published tonight. Michael, you were talking about possibly Tottenham Hotspur being interested in someone like Morgan Rogers. What's he had to say in this interview?
Yeah, he's told Charlotte Dunker of The Times in an interview, he said, "I'm happy here. I love football. I love nothing more than just coming out on the pitch and playing football. And that's what I'm doing. I don't think about anything else. I can't predict the next 12 months or anything in the future. It's just about playing football, enjoying my football and showing everyone what I can do."
Interesting. And this is interesting as well because another developing story concerns the Manchester United forward Rasmus Højlund. Remember, we were telling you that AC Milan wanted to do a loan with an option. Rasmus Højlund and Manchester United's preference is a permanent deal, or at least have a permanent element attached to that deal. So that one looks like it was cooling off. But Napoli, we understand, were trying to do a similar deal. But Sky in Italy are now reporting that they are open, on Napoli, to including an obligation to buy in any kind of loan deal for Rasmus Højlund. That's after AC Milan failed to convince Højlund to join them. Now, Napoli had been proposing a similar deal to Milan's one. Now they've opened up the possibility to including a mandatory buy option. Sky in Italy are reporting that Højlund is now head coach Antonio Conte's top priority after that injury to Romelu Lukaku, and Napoli are now ready to make a significant investment in the striker. This one is definitely one to watch in the last 10 days of this transfer window because we do know Manchester United would be open to a sale. Let's move on now, Mark, to Wolves. Not a great start to their season. 4-0 home defeat to Manchester City. They want to bring in players. Are they close to doing that?
Yes, they certainly are, and it would be welcome news for the Wolves fans. The latest is they're in advanced talks with Girona for defender Ladislav Krejci. The deal is understood to be worth around £25 million. That would be the total package that Wolves would pay. They can bring him in because he offers that versatility. I feel like I'm saying this in every transfer now. It's something that managers want. They want players that can fill in multiple positions. He can play as a right back, he can play as a centre back as well, and he can also play as a holding midfielder. So he brings all of those options for Vitor Pereira. We understand that they're in advanced talks with Girona. So, yeah, one to keep an eye on. But you'd imagine at this stage, advanced talks is normally code for it's about to be done.
Yeah. £25 million, you say, and it will just add to the Premier League club's spend in this window because it is approaching a record. At the moment, they've spent more, wait for it, £2.36 billion on signings this summer. The record spend in a single window was back in the summer of 2023. Can you guess what that was?
2.46.
Wow, you're good. And with 9 days to go, it seems that record is sure to go. But how does that compare with Europe's other top 5 leagues? That was a point of discussion on the latest Transfer Talk podcast.
No, I think I expected some of the top clubs to have big windows. I think we knew that Liverpool would spend big because they hadn't spent that much in previous windows and they had a squad that needed strengthening and kind of not rebuilding, that's a bit strong, but they needed something. So we knew they would be there. I think you knew that City, considering the season that they had last year and where their squad was, that also would be big investment. We knew that Arsenal were going in, wanting a striker. We knew Zubimendi was coming quite a while ago. So we knew that Arsenal will invest too, and then Chelsea always invest. And then you have United who finished 15th and had to invest. And then you had Spurs who finished 17th, had to invest because they played. So it looked like all the planets really, especially of the top clubs, were aligning for a big window. That big, probably not, especially when the rest of Europe is actually looking how much they spend and where they spend it. I mean, La Liga and the second division in Spain this weekend only had over 150 players not registered because the players, the clubs could not actually register them. In France, we've got no TV rights money anymore, so clubs are very careful and you sell more than you buy. So it seems that it's only in England where there's still a lot of money to be spent, and 2.3 billion, 2.4 billion, that's more than Serie A revenue for a year. That's more than Bundesliga revenue for a year. This is incredible, the power that English clubs have compared to other leagues in Europe.
The fantastic Julien Laurent there. Let me tell you, I'm biased. That Transfer Talk podcast is a great listen.
I totally agree.
Well, I'm on it tomorrow, so...
Yeah. All right, mate.
Yeah.
You are actually, yeah. Let's just reflect on the big story we've been reporting about in the last 24 hours. Eberechi Eze, Michael, developing news tonight. Not in that team, in this Conference League playoff first leg.
Honest from Oliver Glasner, but it's no surprise we said it at 5 o'clock. I couldn't see him playing tonight. He's joining Arsenal. It's a huge risk. It's a lot of money. And I think Palace need that money to move on, start again, wish Eze well. It's not a friendly, it's not a testimonial. This is a European match. And what if he got injured tonight?
His dream move to Arsenal's off, isn't it? You know, potentially puts things in doubt, and you'd have to understand that there was a huge risk attached. The one thing I would say from a Crystal Palace perspective is progression in this competition and getting into the Europa Conference League, winning the Europa Conference League could be worth 20, 25 million pounds to Crystal Palace. So they'll obviously want all of their players at their disposal, and a player like Eze could unlock the door to them progressing.
Brilliant stuff. Mark, Michael, I'll see you on the Transfer Talk podcast tomorrow, Michael.
Looking forward to it.
Don't forget, Good Morning Transfers returns tomorrow at 9 a.m. Set those alarms. We're back for Transfer Talk at midday. That's tomorrow as well. And the Transfer Show returns again tomorrow. Once again, the new earlier time at 4 p.m. and at 7 p.m. Up next, Palace are about to kick off and Eze is not in the squad. More next.